Hi, I'm Ricky Fort and welcome to the Real Estate 101 podcast. Join me as I lift the lid on the real estate industry and share some great stories from behind the scenes. Like and subscribe and enjoy this episode. Ricky Ford here from Geelong Real Estate Co. with Real Estate 101, the podcast. As I said, my name is Ricky Fort. Today, very special guest, JT, Jess Templeton. Welcome.
She's in the building.
I got you on the show. Tried to not give you anything to overthink because you're a big overthinker.
I am.
I didn't want you to stress about the show. So it's just getting on here, having a bit of fun. So obviously you haven't even heard all the episodes that we've done so far, but the show's just about supposed to be a little bit inspirational for people, a little bit aspirational. So just hearing your journey. And I'm a bit biased because you work here with me, but I personally think, depending what stats you're looking at, you're the number one real estate agent female in Geelong in terms of sales volume. I know there's different things that you can look at, like commission or average sale price or whatever, but yeah, so you're doing some good things. So I want to get you on the show.
Thank you.
How do you feel about it? You're still shitting yourself?
Well, I'm a bit nervous because I don't know what you're going to ask me.
That's the point.
Preparation. No. I've had no time. So.
I know you're big on preparation. You probably overdo it, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I do.
I ask everyone pretty similar questions. So let's go way back, right? So to early days. So Geelong girl.
Yep.
Grew up in Geelong.
Born and bred.
Yep.
So I grew up in Geelong. I lived in Leopold basically until I bought my first
do you remember
house.
what street?
William Street.
Yep.
In Leopold, just off Christie's Road.
Have you ever sold in that street?
No, I haven't.
Pull your finger out.
I know. But basically, I lived in Leopold right up until I bought my first house.
How many brothers and sisters?
I've got 3 brothers
Yep.
and a little sister.
Yep. And so tell us about one of the common themes is, got it from my mum or whatever. So did you come from an entrepreneurial background? Were they business owners? Were they investors? Were they extroverts?
No, I actually come from the opposite. I think when growing up, I came from, I would say, a poor family. But we had everything that we needed, right? Bit of love, a home, food on the table.
Yeah.
Define
what makes it, maybe not poor, but like lower than average?
Well, I think living week to week and not having savings in the bank, we didn't go on luxury holidays and things like that. So we didn't have those financial choices and I think being around that growing up, it's kind of like you hear these stories all the time, but I think I've used that as my motivation to be successful ultimately.
Nearly everyone that's come on the show, and we've shot like 18 episodes now, nearly everyone that's come on the show has been not from a wealthy background. There's people that have, one of X amount of kids, shared bedrooms, parents weren't entrepreneurial or weren't extroverted or whatever, and then have turned it around. So, what about it was that was like, I don't want this for me? And it's not about throwing shade on
No, my family was great. I definitely had a lot of love, and they definitely taught me a lot of things that I've been able to become the person that I have today. So, but I think, I wouldn't take it back from if I could go back in time and have a different family, I think I would be so different. So I'm grateful for the experiences that I had. But I think I just seen the struggles that my parents went through when we were younger.
What did they do for work?
My mum works in childcare, and my dad, he got really sick. So I've got, 2 dads. My real dad, he's passed away, and a few years ago, that's a whole nother story. And then my stepdad, he worked in factories and just did just tradie work.
Labour stuff.
Yeah, labour stuff. But yeah, he got really sick when I was in about year 7. He went into a coma, so he died and then came back to life, which is another story. But so after that, just really sick.
What do you mean came back to life?
So he was in a coma, in ICU for maybe a week or 2.
Wow.
Yeah, so he died 3 times, and they brought him back to life. So after that, he really struggled to work since from that. So I think I just seen, growing up in, that living week to week, we weren't able to go on holidays and things like that. So I think, and just seeing your parents struggle or, argue about money, I was I just don't want to have that as I get older. So again, I was really grateful because I had 3 brothers and we were always outdoors. I had such a good group of friends, and I'd always my parents would allow us to make our own choices and, What
school did you go to?
I went to East Geelong Primary School for when I was in primary school.
Yep.
And then I went to Newcomb High for secondary school, which I loved it.
I was going to say, you were weird about that. You like, yeah, you think that people are going to look down on you whatever for that, but it's almost like you wear it like a badge of honour that.
Yeah. 3219, love it.
Well, obviously 3219 is a bit of a motto in the office because that's where obviously you're so predominant. I think the agency's number one in terms of volume in that suburb. You're individually the number one agent, male or female, in that postcode. So it's obviously true to your heart or whatever.
I know, it's so funny though because
circle.
Yeah, I was not aiming to create I guess momentum around that area, but it's kind of just happened over the years.
Do you find you have conversations at the dinner table that relate back to the suburb?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I grew up in those streets as well. So I tell vendors when I'm sitting in front of them that I know the area so well, went to the schools close by. And back in the day, we'd always, like, all my friends, we lived in, like, streets reciting each other. So we'd ride our bikes to each other's house and, walk to school. And we used to sit up the corner of my old street and have, fish and chips. So, I lived in the area.
So you've recently had a big milestone birthday, which you were a bit weird about. You felt like you were getting old.
30! No, I feel good.
What did you do for the birthday?
What did I? Oh, yeah, I had a girls' weekend away in the Mornington Peninsula.
That was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So
you're powering some holidays out this year, so you've done that. That was a week away. Then you've just got back from
Vietnam.
Yep. How long was that?
A couple of weeks. So I went to Vietnam straight.
And you've got another one at the end of the year.
Japan. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else booked in?
We're going to go to Philippines and Mexico next year.
You're a wild woman. I think my favourite thing about you is you're very similar to me, that with you say you're going to do something, you just do it.
Yeah.
So just book it in, worry about it later, which I like. So I want to start just two great parts of your story, obviously real estate, but then obviously just what you've done from a personal wealth perspective and stuff like that. So the idea is not to talk about cringe and I've got this many properties. Like, I just think that's distasteful and that's not what it's about. But so let's start way back. So I guess tell me about your segue into real estate. So why real estate? Where'd you start? Because I know you still got some really deep relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically when I was in school, I remember when I was in like year 12, we had to catch up with our... What do you want to be sort of thing? Yeah, we had to catch up with our careers counsellors back then. And I remember like everyone at that time was kind of deciding on what they wanted to do. I remember a lot of people going into the teaching and then I was like, maybe I could be a teacher. And then I was like doing...
I feel like you'd strangle people.
Oh, thank God I didn't become a teacher. No offense to teachers.
Yeah. I still think you could handle stupidity for long enough.
Nah. I probably would have gotten fired by now.
So, real estate?
Yeah. So, and then I did some research. And for me, obviously, money and things was something that was important to me. I wanted to make something of myself and do something for myself because I don't have that generational wealth to rely on ultimately. So and I don't know where like that I can't recall when my mindset started ticking and grabbing onto like being different.
It's huge for you now because I know I reckon you're the complete package, like the triple threat, like you invest yourself, you read a lot of books, you're big on health, you're a bloody hard worker.
Yeah.
You've got all the boxes ticked, which is
I think it's just taken over that period of time. But basically, I remember catching up with my careers teacher and I said, I did some research. I think real estate would be really good for me. I don't have to go to university, which I was not keen on, but I also wanted to make money. And just based on reading about real estate and doing research, I was like, this is for me. And he was like, no, I would not recommend. You will not have a life. You won't be able to have kids. And, it's just not, which is basically true. 10 years in, it's true. There's a lot of things that I look back and I'm like, a lot of things he said was very truthful.
Yeah.
But,
and it's so funny because we see that coming in now. We're obviously, you got Lockie working inside your team. We've got Cal that's recently started. So we see people come into the industry and their commitment levels it's a steep learning curve.
It is.
And it's our job kind of to pass the torch and be like, all right, well, this is the successful model and this is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. How do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, so I went in to do a gap year from school and I was like, I got a little bit bored because I was just like deciding on, okay, do I really want to do this? And
what were you doing in the gap year?
I was working at a butcher shop.
I love this. Yeah, weren't you a vegetarian?
Yeah, I was.
A vegetarian that worked at a butcher shop.
I'm vegetarian until about 6 months ago.
Yeah, you're back on the meat bandwagon?
Yeah, and I feel better than ever.
That's incredible because going back to like you're ultra passionate, you're like if something sparks your thing or you've done your research, you think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So what got you into being a veggie?
I just watched those, a few documentaries. Ultimately, I just watched documentaries, did a bit of research.
You were saying it was initially about like how bad meat is for the planet, though.
Yeah, so it was more about the planet, and it wasn't really about health or anything like that.
Yep.
It was more just to like do my part, maybe eat a little bit less meat, and maybe help the planet. And I think as I got into that, I just stuck with it. Like I'm just a committed person. I'm very disciplined.
Committed. You are disciplined.
So when I say I'm going to do something, I will do it, and I won't let you down. I stuck with it. And
how many years?
Like 6.5 years.
Wow.
Vegetarian, and then I think once I started learning more about health,
you gave away working at the butcher shop.
Yeah, well, that was my first job. As soon as I turned 13. I got a job. Like again, that was something that as soon as my mum encouraged me to do that though. Like my mum was so good. Yeah, they were amazing. Like, whilst they didn't, have lots, but they still taught me so many good elements. Yeah, good values. Yep. And respect and so many beautiful things.
Yeah. Working at the butcher shop, you get to an age where you can get started in real estate. How did you go about finding your first job?
Yeah, so I started my course, and then I reckon I applied for like 5,000 jobs, literally. And I even went to the point where I was like, okay, maybe real estate isn't, I'm so young, and I looked like 5.
You still look 5.
I literally looked so young. So when I was going to these, I reckon I got interviewed every office in Geelong I did an interview at. And I thought I was really close with Barry Plan, and then, obviously didn't get that either. And I just kept trying, and then eventually I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just like stop with real estate and I'll go for admin and just get some experience. That also didn't work. But then I ended up joining a job agency, and like they got to know me and could see that I really wanted to do something, and they ended up helping me get a job. And I was then hired from my previous office at Roncon Real Estate as a lead generator. So basically,
which is basically the worst job in real estate.
I did phone calls from 9 to 5:30.
That recruitment agency, that's poor form. Like to throw a kid that's, there's no better way to crush someone's ambition to get into real estate than to be a lead generator. Yeah,
and I got hired. It was kind of okay though at the time, because I got hired with a young guy at the same time, and we were both similar age. And
is he still around?
No.
Okay.
So basically we were hired together doing the same thing, and basically just lead generated, so just cold calling all day. But I built a lot of skill set, because you get so uncomfortable. But then I just thought, fuck it, they don't know who I am. And then I just started just doing it more and more and more and more and more, and just did it. And I got really good at it, like getting those appraisals, and I just made it a bit of a game, I guess. And we used to have these like...
How long before that guy tapped out?
Well, eventually they fired him, so they had us both on to see like who would kind of perform better, and then I got promoted to the assistant of like the director at the time, so to his PA.
And obviously you've publicly credited him a lot for everything that he's taught you, because about wealth and
so that's probably where I was more exposed to building wealth, seeing how what he's created for himself, my the previous director, and exposed to just a whole nother world I'd never known, which was amazing.
Because he was into shares and crypto and
I actually got him into crypto.
Shares,
property investment, commercials, just building things up. So just shadowing someone like that had done it, and we worked really closely together, like 6 days a week, and doing inspections together. And I was just someone that would just be a sponge and just ask lots of questions, listen to all his phone calls, and that really helped. And then all on top of that, the training and going to like seminars just exposed so much, like a whole new world that I'd never known. So that's kind of where I got started.
So that was obviously Jaden from Roncon Real Estate. That was his own business. It was a small business. I think that story for me is really similar, that my first experience into real estate was the same. It was with, I come from a small business background and stuff, but the conversations, it's like the conversations around a lounge room or a dinner table aren't the same as what you have in an office, I guess. And so while my family were like inverted commas successful and did some things and, had retail businesses and hospitality venues and stuff, the talk around like building wealth other than like just passing comments was never that big. And when I worked for Dylan Taggart at Buxton, who Jaden and Dylan are cousins, so obviously in competing businesses, and Jaden's out now, but I owe Dylan, I've publicly said it a lot of times as well, he was exactly the same. He spoke about shares and building wealth and those sorts of things, and by going to seminars, and exactly the same. You didn't get that from and all my mates same thing. Maybe we're still young. We weren't having those conversations.
Yeah, same.
One thing I think that's really exciting for you and maybe a little bit different for women, and I don't want to come across sexist, but I'm keen to hear if that's a thing, is with, I suppose it doesn't really happen with men either, but you've publicly said a couple of times about, some of your girlfriends or whatever just aren't, and same with my guy friends, like they're just not wired the same as you around building wealth and...
Yeah. So something that I learned, and Jaden probably instilled this, love him. Like, he's definitely taught me a lot, and he has a special place in my heart from, the world that he's shown me. But something I learned, it's not about, the money that you make, but it's what you do with the money that you make. And I know that, I might be making a lot of sales, but the money that I make, it's what you do with that money that's going to make you more money. So that's what really, opened. I was like, I could be earning, it doesn't matter if you're earning 50K or 100K, but it's really what you do with that money.
Yep.
So yeah, being around Jaden versus I guess my other circle, it's completely different.
If you've got friends that are happy, I had mates in hospitality, you got friends that might have been a hairdresser or whatever, and if they're the conversation around the dinner table with them or hanging out with them on the weekend, is that, thank God it's Friday.
Yeah.
And they're getting paid 50 grand a year or 40 grand a year, and that thank God it's Friday mentality, and there's no conversations around business and growing wealth and what else
I don't
we
like
can
small
do.
talk either.
Yeah.
So and you know what? I think there's a time for that, and I don't engage most of my time is now spent with, working or my partner or my dog, basically.
I know when you're with your girlfriends, you'll still get white girl wasted.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You'll go back.
So there's a time that I love it, and it's also it's kind of nice to also have those
turn off.
not those conversations, and just to be a girl and not be so let's go, because I'm very
boss babe.
Yeah, I love that grind. I love, and that's something that I love about real estate is that every year you get into it, you might get to those goals, but it's what's next? And that's why I love it. You're never comfortable. It's always a growth.
We're powering through time, so we've got to get onto it. I want to talk a little bit now about your personal wealth and building stuff and that sort of thing. And again, it doesn't matter who we ask at what stage of life. It's not about tell me how many things. It's just more about the journey and how you've got there and what lessons you've learnt, right? So at what age did you buy your first property?
I was about 24.
Yeah. And so how do you save a deposit when your income's not great?
So just save a percentage, honestly. So when I keeping my overheads low, and I was probably more budget savvy then. Yep. So everything else that, around, you have to say no to some things. And yeah, I think I just got really good I got really savvy with my money.
Yep. Were you working 2 jobs?
No,
Yep.
no, I've never.
Were you living at home?
No, as soon as I turned 18, I moved out. And that was just
That's probably a good one for people that they think you've got to live at home or you have to have 2 jobs. But
house sharing. So basically, I house shared until I bought my first house.
Yep.
So you can house share and you can get a room for $150, but it's fun as well. It was the best time of my life was house sharing. So and then you split all the bills.
So how old did you say when you bought your first house?
About 24. I bought it off the plan, so it was an apartment in on Western Beach in Geelong, which I'm still there now. So I love it. So it didn't settle actually until 2020.
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah. So I basically couldn't purchase anything else until that had settled.
So, and then talk to people about your first investment property.
So I bought that a year after I settled on my first house, which I bought.
And is that because your income's starting to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I like the investment. I'd started dabbling in shares and crypto and property, and I see all the people that I sell for, I'm they bought that. There's a trend. Real estate over time will go up. It's all about the holding game, and it's a long-term game. There's money to be made. So I think just being around that for so many years, I was I want to be a part of that. If they can do that, I can do that. Yep. So, I think just selling for clients, seeing how they've built wealth and learning from those experiences, and then just going out and doing it myself. So I think the hardest one is getting the first property. From there, it's just a roll-on effect.
Where was your first property?
My first property was in the Mirror Apartments in the Geelong.
No, sorry, your investment. My bad.
So in Brisbane.
Yep.
So
tell us about that.
So I've never been to Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I just sell a lot to buy advocates, and I've built relationships with those, and I noticed they were buying a lot in Brisbane, and they were doing a lot of research, and they spend a lot of money on research in certain areas.
Reminds me of, they say, fast food like Hungry Jack's or whatever, never spend a cent on researching locations. They just follow McDonald's.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I just followed.
Yeah.
I basically just followed, and I had a really good relationship with an advocate, and he just did everything for me.
Yep.
And yeah, it was great.
So what's your strategy with buying residential? Is that like, are you looking for capital growth? Are you looking for yield? Are you looking for what?
Both. So Brisbane,
I hate people that say both.
Both, a little bit of both. But I also, like, my most recent purchase was a bit different. But Brisbane, I was just more like looking at growth, and I think that there's a lot going on in Brisbane just based on the things that I've read, and the yields are really good. So you get more rental return for, I guess, your investment.
What's your strategy? Do you like to pay them down, or what are you doing?
So
are they interest only? What are you doing?
Initially, I put Brisbane on interest only, because then you've got more cash flow.
Yep.
So more cash flow to then save for the next one.
Yep.
So my strategy is, whilst you're growing your portfolio, the more cash that you have access to put on your principal residence or save for another property is much better.
Do you still have debt against your own house?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that a conscious decision? You just want to grow the portfolio, get rental, like get income coming in, and you're like, I know it's not ideal to have debt on your own house, but...
So my principal residence, I mean, the mortgage isn't huge, like for 30.
You've never been tempted just to focus and like be right, in the next 5 years or 10 years, I'm going to try to pay that off?
Not right now, because my apartment's not my forever house.
Yep.
So I think I'm sitting down because I want to buy my fourth property.
Is there a
soon.
scenario that you'll transition that house into another investment?
Yeah.
So keeping your debt high on that.
Yeah.
So you've still got negative equity and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's not high, but basically all the money that not all the money that I've got goes into an offset account against my principal residence.
Yep.
So I'm paying still less. So I leverage off that, so I can still have access to those funds, but it's still maximising some, I guess, like something off the interest rates.
One cool part of your story that I like is, I know you definitely aren't going without, and you're making it work, but your preference is not to live in that. You're enjoying your time in the apartment, but you do want to buy your own house and have space for Rufus, and we'll put a photo up of Rufus. But it's to make something for yourself. But I guess one common theme that I see of all the people that I've interviewed is that they usually put their own wants and desires like on the back burner.
Yep. So
you could have bought that house for yourself. I'm sure you've been in that apartment how long now?
Over 3 years now. So yeah, absolutely. I think having the apartment, it's a lower, the mortgage repayments are lower. So keeping those principal whilst you're trying to build wealth, I think the best thing that most people miss is that they go for the bigger house and just only ever own one house and focus off just paying on that. But at the end of their lifetime, they've only got one property. But I think there's some really smart investment key strategies. Once you've got that first property, it's the hardest one to save for. You can then use equity and things to buy your next properties. So for me, I want to have 10 properties.
So now that you're you're still ambitious and you want more and so I guess, how do you console yourself or whatever with being like, all right, now's the time, I'm going to look after me, I am going to buy, my next one's going to be for me.
Yeah.
How do you, because that goes against your values and what you're trying to do.
So I just purchased another one in Perth recently. And that was based on like yields. They do really good rental returns
and
there.
Same buyer's advocate?
Yep. So buyer's agents, they can be really good, especially when you're buying interstate and you kind of have no idea. And I'm an emotional buyer. So I will.
Good to separate yourself from that.
Yeah. So it was really smart. I think the next purchase, like I've been thinking about this, buying my next property, and I'm thinking that maybe I'll probably buy something in Geelong and lease it out, because I'm probably not. I can't be bothered moving right now. I'm thinking about maybe that. I've got a meeting with my broker next week to discuss getting my finance for...
Going to drop your broker?
No.
Drop some names?
Brandon Huda, he's a legend, from Geelong Finance. So, I'm going to sit with him next week, and we're going to discuss buying the fourth property, which will be exciting.
Yep.
Maybe... it'll just depend on, what I can and can't do at the moment, but... I'm hoping that I'll be able to buy something next, lease it out, and then maybe renovate it into like my dream home in a couple of years, but just sit it aside.
One cool thing, I haven't asked you if it's okay to talk about, so if it's not, we'll go around it. But obviously, the common theme for everyone, lots of stuff goes right, lots of stuff goes wrong. You've recently had a huge kick in the butt with like crypto.
Oh.
Are you happy to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't get into crypto if you don't know what you're doing. Oh yeah, look, I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in crypto.
I know it's hard to talk about.
Yeah, so yeah, basically I was definitely one of those people that just went all in. But this is all about like my investment strategy didn't hurt me so much because I diverse. Like I've got gold, silver, properties, shares, cryptocurrency, savings.
You're a weapon, people.
Like,
she's a weapon.
So I like to diverse, right? So, you know, for me, it hurt, but it didn't hurt that much.
It's not everything.
No.
When you got all your eggs in one basket,
Yeah.
you lose the basket, it's game over.
Yeah, so basically,
What happened with the crypto stuff? Like,
it went crazy, right? So I was putting like lots of money into it, like lots
Lots of money.
And it went like to about 700,000 my portfolio in total. And then I was just like, at the time, I was like taking it out. I was earning a lot through real estate, like tax and stuff. I was just like, maybe I'll just ride the wave, because taking that out, which was the dumbest decision ever. Like you definitely learn a lot from going through a cycle like we've just been through of not being greedy. Greed.
Yeah.
And I'm not a greedy person. I just think, you know, money gives you options. Money allows you to put money into other businesses, help other people around you, and, you know.
So what actually went wrong with? I'm not in cryptos. You know what specifically went wrong?
The market just shut itself, and I didn't sell anything out. And I've also got a lot of money in one portfolio that's going through
like
bankruptcy.
a wallet or something. Yeah.
And that's going through bankruptcy, and I can't touch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's been going on for like going through the courts for like maybe a year now.
Yeah.
So
I remember when you first started, like that was, and I was like, God, it'll be interesting to see. This will really test your character, see what you're made of.
Yeah.
Because if this stops you in your tracks and stops you from going on to earn more income and replace it and do more with your life.
yeah. So
But it's funny, like, I'm not talking you up, you barely blinked.
no, I think
There
money's
was a few bits you're like, you know, pretty depressed.
Yeah.
But literally it lasted for like minutes.
money is
And then-
replaceable, and it's re-earnable, and it's just a number on the screen. And that's something that I live by. It's the same thing when I'm buying something. It's just like you're trading for something.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with my mentality. And that's why I diverse all my investments. Like I have a range of things, and then it's not focused on one area. It's the same with like locations now, with like investing interstate. I really
Yep.
like that I'm doing that strategy. And then
Do you have a good accountant?
do you know what? My life admin is pretty shit. So.
It is terrible.
Yeah, no. I mean, yes, he's good. Yep, he's good. So doing tax on cryptocurrency, oh my goodness. I just had to do
it's a whole
2 years on
specialist.
it, and it was awful. Yeah, and I've just transacted and taken out a heap of crypto as a loss just before end of financial year, and I'm dreading that tax. So yeah, anyways, basically you just should invest in what you know and
Yep.
make those like, and that's why I'm like, real estate's a safe investment for me.
What's your favorite book on investing? Can be anything.
I don't really have like a favorite. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
You are a big potty
Yeah,
girl.
so I've read so many books in my time. I've got like a whole little
Give
library
me
at
one,
home.
just anything. Doesn't even have to be your favorite. What's the
don't-
first one that springs to mind?
I don't know. There's like heaps of old school books that
Like Richest Man in Babylon.
yeah,
stuff like that.
I've read every like if you I probably read them all.
Yeah.
But I reckon like where I started. Do you know the simplest book that most people like should just read is just The Barefoot Investor. Just
Yeah.
start there
got to-
and then get into more. So it's just like the most simple, easy read. And I read that when I was in Europe.
We've got a copy in
Years
the
ago.
office here. If anyone wants one, shout out.
Yeah.
We'll send it out to you.
But then, I just honestly anything to do with wealth or self-development or anything like that, I'll read. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. So every day before I get to work, I work out and listen to a podcast.
Yep.
Do all my things to get me in the mindset to handle my clients in real estate.
Well, yeah, like you're definitely mentally really strong. I've seen you go through a lot, and you always seem to just be able to shrug it off like I can't see many other people do. So just quickly go back to what you'd either tell yourself as like an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old that you think would be helpful for yourself or for someone else at that age.
Yeah. I think definitely just to not sweat the smaller things. I think all the failures and things along the way have made me who I am today. And I definitely like there's something will happen on a Friday and I will literally spend all weekend overthinking that situation.
You still
of like,
do that now.
I know,
so-
but I really try and catch it now. I'm getting better and I've grown a lot over the years, but I think, just try and catching that it won't matter in like 5 days probably, but especially in 5 years. I don't remember half the shit that happened 10 years ago when I started in real estate, but they've
and at
built
the time
up
it feels like this is
the
going
end of the world.
Yeah.
And same with like, there's so many things. Real estate is a roller coaster and it's so hard, and so is life. So I'm sure everyone in any industry like has hard days at work, but you just got to let it go. So
Any
just wake up.
advice for young females?
Oh my God, so many things that I would say. I think it just depends on what avenue of life they're trying, or what they're trying to achieve, whether it's being a great mum or being really successful. Like, I think there's so many different pieces of advice that I could give. They're not really being a mum because I'm not a mum, but I'm a dog mum. But I don't know. I think it just keep going and keep trying and don't give up. Like, it depends on really, again, what they're trying to do, I think, to what advice I'd give them.
Yeah.
Because I can speak a lot, but yeah, I don't know.
You can. You and your partner Tolga. If anyone is interested in food blogging, check out Tasty Tolga. Taste of Tolga.
Yeah, I get fed well.
Yeah, he is a character. He loves being on camera too. So the complete package, you, him, and Rufus. But mate, thanks so much for coming on the show. I know you were cracking yourself, but I think you got a great story. And if people want to reach out to you, and maybe young girls or whatever want to know more about like investing, and just want someone that they can talk to, or just for advice.
Yep.
You're a pretty casual chick, so reach out on Insta, Facebook, all that sort of stuff.
You can just Google my name and it'll come up with my number otherwise.
There you go. Easy. Just do that.
Real estate.
Yeah, easy. Mate, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Onwards and upwards. Here we go.
Woohoo.
Legend.